welcome back to the show. Now, my next guest had a bond with his mother like no other. Sadly, in 2013, she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he often holidayed with his mother long before her diagnosis. So as her illness progressed, he decided they'd escape the Irish winter and head to sunny Malta in February 2018. This turned into an 18-month adventure where his mother got to explore Nepal, Italy and South Africa. And in her final months, he has now written since then a memoir, To Carry an Angel, which details this trip of a lifetime in his mother's honour. Sean T. O'Sally, you are so welcome to the show. And thank you for coming on to talk about this, because it can be difficult learning that a family member has an illness like Alzheimer's. Can you remember when she was diagnosed? How was that experience for you?
Well, first, thanks for having me, Ruth. First, it was a neighbour who told me, because her mother-in-law had it. And initially I said to her, no, it's just not possible. But it went in there, you know, subconsciously. I was thinking about it, and I downloaded some tests from the internet and tested my mother, and I could see that it was happening. And
what kind of things were you seeing happening, for instance?
Okay, so I woke up one morning and went down, and she was ironing my shirt on the kitchen table with the electric kettle. You know, and happily so. I'm doing your shirt. And so my initial thing was not to let her know that I was seeing this. I was worried that it would hurt her a lot. So I just kept her. I just kept her in their world and us in her world, and let it just happen. We took a trip in 2013 to South Africa, and I went to a neurologist there, and he confirmed it for us.
Okay.
But he did say to me then, he said, "You're not going to have a problem." He said, "I can see your mother is a very happy and positive and outgoing person, not at all cynical or pessimistic." And he said, "You are in for a treat." And we were.
Isn't that amazing that your mother's underlying good spirits would help her in this difficult illness? Now, you work in the travel industry yourself. And so you would have gone on holidays, am I right in thinking, with your mum several times before. Was she the kind of person that would pack a bag at the drop of a hat and say, "Sean, come on, where are you taking me this weekend?"
She loved it. She loved it. I live in Rome, and she would come here, could be 6 times, 8 times a year. I brought her to New York City. I brought her to lots of places. Cape Town was another one that we loved. But we travelled all the time. But when I was back in Ireland, we often travelled to Galway as well, and she loved Galway. Galway's full of music, as you know, so she would dance at the drop of a hat, and she would dance down there on Quay Street and Shop Street with the musicians. So she loved travelling with me as well.
Well, and I enjoyed
having her with me.
I can see from this picture, Sean, I think this is in Nepal, where you have loads of paint on your face. What was going on there?
When we were there in Pokhara, right beside the lake, and I went out with her in the wheelchair. She could walk, but I'd bring her in the wheelchair, and I realised this was going on. And I was going to turn around, because I thought it would be too difficult on her. I mean, there was just all the Nepali were running around, children were screaming. It was a big party, and I was going to turn around, but then a little kid came over and said, "Can I put some colour on your mother?" And I said, "Of course." My mother loved it. Then another kid came, because they all knew my mother, and then another kid, and we continued on the journey down by the lake, and we just got covered in this. And she responded to it really well. She smiled and she laughed, and we were out for the whole day. I stopped sometimes to take her for a juice drink, but we were really out for the whole day, and they were just throwing it all over the two of us.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah, and it's lovely to have those memories. And I suppose, because initially you brought her on a holiday shortly after the diagnosis, but then at that point you realised there's great experiences to be had. She's enjoying just hanging out, not necessarily having expensive things bought for her. At what point did you go, "You know what, Mum, we're going to go on an 18-month trip, and we're going to have the trip of a lifetime"? Can you remember a moment when the penny dropped and you thought, "This is what we're going to do"?
Not really, no. It was more spontaneous than that. When we were in Nepal, we were really enjoying it. But then I flew back to Rome, because April and May in Rome is wonderful. And I wanted to be closer to Ireland so that it wouldn't be difficult to get home. Rome was just, again, it was great. Then summer came, June, July and August, which is very hot in Italy. So we went to a little village where a friend of mine gave us his house, and then we lived village life there, and we were absolutely loving that. Then it got to October, and Italy can get quite cold, and it got to another winter in Ireland. So I decided, well, let's go to Cape Town until because it's summer there. But summer in Cape Town, it's not like summer in Italy. You've got all those, it's beside the sea, you've got the wind. And that turned out to be the perfect adventure as well. And when it got to April in Cape Town, that's their autumn, yeah, she got a chest infection and didn't survive it.
Ah, gosh.
But it wasn't that I said I'm going to just travel for years and years with my mother.
Because
It just seemed right.
Yeah, you could see that she was loving these experiences and I suppose really enjoying her time with you. And what I thought was lovely was as well that you were planning the trips in such a way that it would make her comfortable. Because I would think, oh God, yeah, flying's lovely, but it's a bit of a nightmare. It's either really early morning or late at night. But you made sure that she still kept her sleep pattern consistent. In many ways, you kept patterns like that consistent, but you still got to bring her off on amazing adventures. I know you've talked about the paint on the face in Nepal and Cape Town. Are there a couple of things that really stick out in your memory as the greatest memories of the time that you got to spend traveling with your mum?
Yeah, and it's nothing big, you know, it's the simple things. Like we were in New York City in 2010 and it was December and we were walking through Central Park and I used to hold my mother's hand. The Italians call me a mamone, which means mother's boy, and I would say, yes, I am, I'm a mother's boy. But I was holding her hand and I could see it was a long winter sun casting the shadow across the grass. And I had a visualization and I just thought, she used to lead me. She used to hold my hand. And now I'm a young man and we're walking together on equal terms. But in the future, I will probably be leading her and holding her hand. And I just kind of saw it all in one short 30-second clip of these shadows of a child and his mother. And then he becomes a young teenager, then a young man and an adult. And she's like a little girl. And I was leading her. And I never forget that visualization. And then I visualized after she passed away. I thought about that again after she passed away. And I just saw myself standing there on my own, but not alone, you know? And I just thought, well, you know, I loved her. And I pause and I look and think we had a great time together. But
and
yes, I'm okay.
You've paid tribute to her as well in the fact that you've written the memoir To Carry an Angel. I'm wondering, there must have been parts of that where it was very emotive thinking about your mum who at this stage had passed. Were there parts of it that were enjoyable to write?
She had a difficult life. And so you shouldn't be laughing at it. But sometimes there's just anecdotes that you think, it's kind of like Roddy Doyle stuff or something, you know? Well, the only parts that for me were...
I was going to say, it's been lovely to talk to you today and hear of the really special bond between you and your mum and the adventures you got to go on when many people might have thought, oh, that's it now. It's been lovely to talk to you. To Carry an Angel, it's not published currently, but it is available online, I believe. So the very best of luck with that in the future, and maybe you'll even write a few more books. Sean, lovely to talk to you today.
Thanks, Ruth. Thank you very much.
Right, time for a quick break. When we come back, we're talking about the birds and the bees with our sexpert, Dr. Caroline West. Don't go anywhere.